Hawkeye, that Avenger. Despite being called lackluster and unnecessary to the Avengers, I think Clint has proven himself time and time again throughout the MCU as to why he deserves to be an Avenger. So it's no surprise to me that he's getting his own Disney Plus series. But when they announced it, I was like, alright, this seems kinda cool. Archery and stuff, go arrows. But then we got this concept art, and holy Hawkeye people, it looks just like one of my all-time favorite comic runs, the Matt Fraction and David Aja Hawkeye series. So this series quickly became one of the things I'm most excited for out of Phase 4 of the MCU. More than any other MCU chapter, I'm really hoping that this is a closer adaptation of the comic itself, and for that, my excitement is quite cautious. It's no secret that there have been great adaptations of books, but also plenty of bad ones. So Mr. Feige, Kevin, I know you're watching, so, in my opinion, here are the 3 main things Disney Plus Hawkeye needs to be in order to live up to the comic. Now this may seem like common sense, but it's very easy to overlook. Clint is one of the few main characters in the Marvel Universe without any superpowers, and the comic does a really good job at making him feel like just that, powerless. When he fights, he shouldn't feel like he can just escape from any situation the way you know Cap's probably gonna win if he gets into a fight. He should constantly be getting his absolute Asgard handed to him and just narrowly escaping danger. His action scenes should feel like Indiana Jones. He's similar in the sense that he's always barely surviving, escaping by the skin of his teeth. He's a vulnerable person, and I think we need to be shown that. He's not a god fighting a space titan. He's a guy with a bow and arrow who fights tracksuit mafia bros. I also love the imagery of Clint constantly covered in bandages. I don't know how well it would translate to live action, but I think they could pull it off. One of the concept art pieces is Kate with band-aids all over her face, so I think they're kind of already going for that. I think the look does a good job at summarizing that these people are vulnerable, but also the fact that this is a very light-hearted series that nobody really needs to take too seriously. It's a fun ride that will give us a deeper look into Clint as Hawkeye and potentially pass the torch to his predecessor. Which leads me to the next and possibly the most important point on this list. For those of you who don't know who Kate Bishop is, she's Hawkeye in the new Avengers. We don't know who's going to play her in the Disney Plus series, but rumor has it that Haley Steinfeld is up for the role. Kevin Feige, please make it happen. She'd be so good. Just watch True Grit and you'll agree with me. Fraction and Aha's series wonderfully explored her complicated relationship with Clint, where the pair have a unique banter, each one of them having both the utmost respect for each other, even though Clint, and sometimes Kate, is such a mess. From the looks of it, the Disney Plus series will show their relationship, but I hope it has a similar feel to the comic, and isn't just a generic mentor and apprentice type team. These are 2 people with amazing comic timing, who just can't seem to get their life together, but always get up in the morning to do some superheroics. Jeremy Renner's humor as Hawkeye is different from what we've seen in the comics, so I'm interested to see how that will play out. Speaking of which, now, I've already mentioned that this show needs to be one of the more grounded and gritty MCU entries, but it also needs to have fun. While Comic Clint is constantly in danger, he very rarely takes it seriously unless other people are involved. He's constantly spitting out weird one-liners like, "Oh, coffee, no," or "I'm great at boats." This, in the MCU, would kind of be a shift for the character, but I think they could make it work by showing he's become less work-oriented since the events of Avengers Endgame. And yes, this should definitely take place after Endgame. It needs to be a lighthearted show, tonally similar to Thor Ragnarok, and I think that if it took place during the 5-year gap left by Endgame, the weight of Clint's redemption in that movie would be lost. Also, we'd be left wondering where Kate Bishop is during Endgame. So set this after Endgame, show us Clint living the good life with his family, and then he's brought back into this world, but he doesn't care as deeply as he used to. Not to say that he's apathetic, he's just more focused on getting out of that Avenger life. This could contrast well with Kate, who's a young Avenger trying to find her way in the pantheon of Marvel heroes. Their buddy cop dynamic could play well into a lot of funny TV tropes, and they could parody them as well, considering it's a relatively unconventional pairing. So make it funny. To bring up Thor Ragnarok again, it should be similar in the sense that we feel sympathetic towards the character's struggles, but we should also feel comfortable laughing at them. And finally, my honorable mention, Lucky the Pizza Dog. He's in some of the concept art, so this one the show producers already kind of nailed. I hope that they take inspiration from that award-winning comic, Pizza is My Business, and they could at least do a little part of an episode from Lucky's perspective. So those are my thoughts. I'm really looking forward to see what Marvel Studios does with this series. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more Marvel content and various pop culture videos. Thanks for watching, and I hope your day is better than Clint's.